Did you know Mark travels back in time and changes everything? After Mark and Oliver arrive at a planet to figure out the whereabouts of Thrag, Mark descends into a cave that drags him down and sees a mysterious blue entity. He talks to it and touches it. A sudden flash of light blinds him. He wakes up in the exact same place he was before he got his powers and with his current memories intact. Debbie continues to yell for Mark, and Mark leaves. He sees his father fighting on the TV screen, and he offers to help, but remembers his powers don't come yet. After getting out of class, he goes to talk to Eve and tells her that he is from the future, much to her disbelief. He begins talking about how he knows much about her, and this intrigues her. He is brought to the teen team base where her teammates are in as much disbelief. As he begins to talk about how he knows about Rex's past as a poor child, he gets angry and suspects he's from the government. Kate and Robot arrive, and he talks about how Robot isn't a robot, but a deformed person. Moments later, he tells them about David Hiles, and his plans are put to a stop before any children are killed, much to the surprise of the team. Robot discusses how his lack of relation with people would cause to do something drastic, similar to what he has done in the past timeline. Mark worries, but decides not to say anything. Before Mark leaves and gets his superpowers, Robot asks that he saves as many lives as possible, but not alter things too much. The Grayson family eat dinner, and afterwards, Mark flies out in frustration, waiting for this new timeline to be over with, pleading for this absurd event to be put to an end, but left with no response. The next day, he goes to see Art Rosenbaum. Much to his surprise, stops Titan's burglary, the Mauler twins project, and D.A. Sinclair's Reaniman project. Mark tells Sinclair not to worry, as he will get his redemption. Mark grows depressed and contemplates whether or not he is doing the right thing. The next morning, the teen team and him fight the Flaxons, as he informs them about the Flax and weakness and manage to beat them. However, Nolan would soon arrive and find out about Mark's powers there. Nolan asks why Mark kept his powers a secret, and Mark asks to take it outside. Mark becomes depressed and asks Nolan a serious question. Does he love him and his mother? He's shocked, but Mark urges him to really consider it. Thinking about it strongly, Nolan says that he does, deeply. Mark asks him not to try to conquer the planet. Nolan frowns and clenches his fist. Nolan is in disbelief that Invincible knows he planned on killing the Guardians of the Globe. Invincible quickly recounts all the events that he tells him will happen, and how he'll ultimately give up, as Nolan will realize his love for his family and Earth. I really don't want to fight you again. However, Nolan doesn't give a single shit and punches Invincible, breaking his goggle while saying, "You can't defy the Viltrum Empire." Mark once again pushes the idea he's from the future, but Nolan doesn't buy it and backhands his ass. Mark is too weak to fight back since he's in a weaker state now, so he leads Nolan to Utah. Nolan spears Mark, who deliberately maneuvers toward the Guardian of the Globe HQ. "I won't stop until I've beaten sense into you. This planet's fate is decided. We'd only ensure our demise by trying to save it." The Guardians overhear everything, and Immortal demands for an explanation. Will Immortal still be a fraud? Mark quickly tells them how Nolan is a traitor who smacks Mark away, saying he had to make it difficult, and they all team up to attack Nolan. The Immortal tells Nolan that he never liked him, and Nolan punches a hole through the Immortal's chest while saying, "The feeling is mutual." He's never beating the fraud allegations. 1 minute into the fight and he's already out. Invincible blocked a blow from Omniman, as Martian Man and War Woman tag punched Omniman's face. Mark tried to talk to his father, but is slammed down. In a dash, Red Rush arrived at super speed and rushing a funnel tunnel around Omniman. War Woman informed him about Omniman's betrayal. Omniman tried to grab Invincible, but is saved by Darkwing. Darkwing asks who is he, to which Mark responds, "I'm..." but was interrupted as Martian Man and Red Rush were thrown into Darkwing and Invincible. War Woman slammed Omniman's face and says he will regret his actions this day. But Omniman grabbed her neck and was about to kill her and says they'll all be crushed under the Viltrum Empire. But Green Ghost phases through Nolan, and while he's disoriented, War Woman knocks him out with her hammer. Red Rush wraps chains around Nolan as it's revealed that the Immortal survived this encounter immediately, unlike in the original timeline. Cecil Stedman arrives and agrees to take Nolan into custody, already with Reanimen. Later at the Pentagon, Mark explains things to Cecil and convinces him he's from the future and that he can inform him of all the events that will transpire. Nolan wakes up and finds himself in shackles. Cecil urges Invincible to get him on the right side again. Mark feels regret for having him imprisoned. Nolan profusely apologizes to Mark and tells him he just snapped because everything he said was right and it just kept making him angrier. He says that if it weren't for him, he would have done terrible things, and how he'd eliminate the Guardians quickly before he'd want to stop himself. He admits the planet has changed him, and thanks Mark for letting him see that he does love his family and Earth. Later, Mark warns Alan the alien about the Viltrumites' plan to take over Earth, as well as Thetis being a secret Viltrumite. He also tells him of his father and how he will join him in the fight. Alan is in complete awe. They both go to the Pentagon, and Alan still isn't convinced about Omni-Man's change of heart, so Nolan explains how he's betrayed his people for Earth because he sees how wrong what they're doing is, and he wants to protect all planets, and not just one. Alan still is on the fence, but Mark tells him that Earth changed Nolan in his ways he didn't even realize at first, and Nolan agrees but says it was difficult to accept such feelings. Mark explains to Cecil what will happen next, as Nolan is released. Nolan says his goodbyes to Debbie while expressing his love for her before he leaves with Alan. Cecil apologizes to Invincible since this whole situation must weigh very heavy on him. No, you're not. But that's okay. So give me a headset and I'll help you figure things out before things get bad. I don't want a free moment to think about how hard this is on me. Mark goes to fight the Lizard League, the Elephant, Doc Seismic, and the Flaxans, along with the Reanimen, old and new guardians of the globe, and the Teen Team. Mark saves Eve from a Flaxan blast, and Rexplode reminds him that Eve is with him and not Mark, much to his frustration. Mark arrives home and his mother asks if he wants to talk. Mark says that he's exhausted and goes to his room. He begins crying, and the mysterious entity that put him back in time appears. It speaks to him and says that he has undone much death and asks why Mark is sad. He reveals that he doesn't like this life. The entity reveals that Mark-altering events prevented Eve from finding out about Rex's affair with Duplicate, but this in turn saved many lives. The entity goes on to say that Mark was chosen by them for his selflessness and influence on others to save the universe he is in. But Mark has the choice to go back to his original universe, though the world he inhabits is indeed very real. Mark wants to go back, shocking the entity. He goes to say that Terra would not exist in the universe he is in currently, and that would mean essentially killing his daughter. The entity asks that Mark would choose one life over thousands of others, and he says yes, he would. The entity is baffled and says Mark was their final hope. He crashes out, saying the entity has told him nothing and has put him through hell for reasons unknown to him. It says he wouldn't be able to comprehend their goal. He's given one final chance and he declines. The entity calls him a disgrace and says that he has doomed this reality. Mark returns to his original reality and says he can live with that, as he gets out of the cave he was previously in. He sees that the spaceship from Telescria is wrecked and rushes back to Telescria. He finds Eve on the balcony and calls out to her. She is shocked by his appearance, and Mark explains where he was, much to her surprise. He reveals that he was gone for weeks, and that he made the choice of Tara Grayson over thousands of other people. He asks to see Tara. He becomes happy, but starts crying after he realizes that Tara is much older than before, meaning that he had missed years of her childhood. And this is where the comic ends. What did you guys think of this arc? Don't forget to like and subscribe.